think that, well, one is I'd like to produce guidelines that would help probably mainly municipalities, so local governments, to assess and incorporate sustainability and equity criteria into their sanitation services for informal settlements. But I think it's not only for local government. I think other people could also find it useful. And I'm also writing a critique of some of the current sanitation service practices in 3 of the largest cities in South Africa, which, again, I think it will be helpful just to kind of put some perspective in terms of some of the issues related to providing sanitation services in the context of a sort of middle-income country where you have some people who have what's considered, the highest level of service or the most modern convenience, and then you have people who are living in very basic, very dire circumstances. And then the third outcome, I guess in terms of my thesis, probably more personal on my own outcome, like in terms of the learning process and everything. But yeah, I guess those are the 3 things I hope will come out of what I'm doing. It's less, I think the research I'm doing is slightly different from what many of the other students are doing in that it's not related primarily to looking at specific technology, but rather more like policy and management practices. Sure. So with what I was writing, one of the methods that I used was to do case studies, and I decided to do comparative case studies between the 3 largest metropolitan cities, because I think there's quite a lot to be learned from what's currently being done, but as well to kind of take a sort of macro view where you look at, okay, these are the programs that these municipalities have set up given a particular policy context. So part of what I'm writing has been to do a policy review that's related to sanitation services, and also to see how it's being applied differently in different contexts, because that's something that's come up quite a bit in the research, that the context in which you provide services or use a particular technology is very important to its success or failure, or the management practices that you put in place. I don't know if that explains it a bit more. Most valuable thing. Well, I've learned quite a bit. I think sometimes it's to look at a lot of different angles to a particular issue, and that sometimes even the problem itself is not that clearly defined. Like, you might think, oh, this is what's going on, but the more you dig, you realize actually there are all these other kind of complex issues that are underlying what you see as the problem, and that problem might actually be more of an effect than the cause. And I think learning to analyze things on this very more systemic or kind of broad way of looking at things, rather than saying, okay, I know what's going on, this must be it, but rather to take a step back and try and look at many different aspects of it. So whether it's like I was saying, looking at the policy, as well as you do have to understand the technical components as well, and the people who are involved, and all of those different things. I'm not 100% certain, because like I said, I haven't really taken like the conventional kind of engineering route, so it's a little bit less clear in terms of career paths. I have looked into sort of, I'm interested in like development work in general, so one area that I've been looking into is looking at like sort of development consulting. So I may not stay specifically just in water and sanitation and hygiene, although that may be part of it, but mainly broadly looking at like development issues, I think. Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think seeing what all the other students are doing, as well as getting feedback from a panel of experts, is really, really beneficial. Like, it's challenging to you, but it stretches you and it makes you think, because sometimes you can get really caught up in your own work and you don't see how it relates to what other people are doing, or how it applies. You know, you're doing your work in the country that you're doing it in, but how does it apply globally and things like that. So I think this is a really great opportunity to kind of exchange those ideas, and also just, it's very collegiate. Like, everybody now, after 4 years almost, of 3 or 4 years of working on our project, it's been great to see like the development of people's work, and over time, and also to develop those personal relationships too. Yeah.